construct. Express myself, I'm next up. Yeah, what more do you say? Coming up. Yeah. Come on, yeah. Come up now. Can't stop me. You coming up.
Oh, there you are.
Hello. My computer died.
I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to ad lib until she comes on here. Oh, that's
I
okay. You're
was
back in business. And you
so
look
hot.
very crisp and clear. Your picture looks great. Looks great.
Thanks.
So we are so pressed for time tonight. So we got to make sure we stay on schedule. But we got a hot topic that I know we're probably gonna end up having to do a part two to it. I think so. What you think?
I
So
think
definitely have to do that. But so we're going to introduce this. So first, how was your day, Morgan?
my day was productive. It was good. Good. Definitely so. Well, the fact that,
Oh,
like I said, my computer just died. How was yours?
that's a minor technicality. Minor. So my day today, just like yours, just busy. Seems like I can have so many things to feel. It's just one thing after another. I'm like, I just really want to just take a moment just to kind of decompress. I didn't have that. So it is what it is. But let's get on into this. So tonight we're talking about single, married, blending families, building a family structure. And so is Morgan, is your screen frozen? Oh, there you are. Your screen was frozen for a minute. I'm like, why is she
Let
looking
me
at me like
great
that?
today. Well, let me be great today.
You are great anyway. We're gonna bind that up. We're not gonna have any problems on here. We're gonna talk about the right thing. And it's gonna work. Hey, Jackie.
There you
So
go.
we already have a guest that's in the queue that wants to come in, and we're gonna first introduce our topic and what we're talking about. So we're gonna talk about being single and parenting, being married and parenting and working and trying to blend it, and then having a blended family. So I'm single and waiting, and I have four children that I have raised. So I can talk about from that aspect. You're married, you have children, you have a blended family, so you can talk about that as far as parenting styles, what we had when we were growing up, how it is now, and how it is to blend. Because that's one of my concerns is about blending families. Now, three of my kids are grown now, and then I have the 8-year old. So it'll be a little bit easier, I feel, dealing with one child as opposed to all four of them when the family becomes blended. But we want to hear from everybody's perspective. We're not just going to have this be me and you just conversating back and forth. We want everyone's perspective. So I know Morgan did on her page and she tagged me, and it's on the House of Peaches page. Well, the Restream link, if you're interested in actually coming on the show and coming in. Now we're not gonna let you take over, and everybody wants to get a chance to talk. So we're gonna have an opportunity for everyone to give their insight and their input in on this topic, as it is very, very serious. And there nowadays when you marry someone, it's rare that you marry someone without kids. Very rare. And so then you have to know how to come into that type of relationship. So um, I think let's just go ahead and bring our first person in. I believe it's Jeff. So we can bring in Jeff. You find Jeff. Oh no, did Jeff go away? Well, we'll just keep talking until Jeff gets in here. So I'm
Well,
gonna talk. Go
yeah,
ahead, go
actually,
ahead.
I was gonna say something in response to what you actually had just said. Even in your situation, when you get married, although yes, you have like one child in the house right now, that doesn't mean that your other children aren't a part of that process. Like, yes, they're grown, they have their own lives, but who you marry still affects them.
That is true. That is true. And
Even
I always like to get their input, even in the dating process, because I've been one that I've never brought anyone that I've dated around my kids until I know that this is going to be long term. And the one that I did bring around, he got a chance to spend some time with them, and I asked them their opinion. And of course, my son's like, whatever. He's 17. He's like, whatever. He's like, he all right.
Right.
The girls had a little bit more to say, which was positive, which was, good, but Ariel was the one that loved him the most. But yeah, so you're right. You are right. I am, they are included in that. But I guess our person that we had on there decided he is going to come back in or change his mind. But I want to talk about it from the single point of aspect of it, because I raised my kids, although at some point in time I was married, but for the most part of their lives, I raised them myself. And I remember I had the three kids. They were very young, 6, 4, and 5 months old. And I moved from Georgia to Ohio. Did not have any family, friends, nothing. Just the four of us moved when I got out of surgical tech school. And just knowing that I had to buckle down and take care of them myself and really just figure out how to do it. It was difficult. It really was. I remember driving into work and being sleepy, and my commute to work was about 30 to 45 minutes one way. Please don't let it snow, then it was extended. But I know I had that drive to take care of them and make sure they had what they need. So that's what pushed me. And trust me, it was hard because they were all small. My son at the time, he was 5 months old, and I was breastfeeding him. So it was getting up at 4 in the morning and pumping and feeding him and getting all that together to go to the daycare. And then the two girls, they had long hair. So it was like, what am I going to do with this? Keep it braided, whatever. I had to figure out how to do that. So, the way that I grew up, like, I grew up in a two-parent household. Like my mom and my dad were there, and it was so much more different because you don't have that extra person to rely on. So I understand now that I'm appreciative, and my kids, there is a greater appreciation. I hope y'all don't hear the dogs in it. Back these my cousin's dogs back here. I don't know why they're howling. Like what? Like I don't know. My children have a greater appreciation for me and what I've done, and they told me. And that's how I know that they saw what I did, and it resonated with them, because they try to alleviate stuff that I have to do. So when we got ready to move and it was time to load up the U-Haul and take it to, hey, Jeff, take it to the storage. They did all of the work. They did the work, and they gave me a break. All right, so Jeff is on here. Hi, Jeff. How are you? Can you hear us? Jeff can't hear us. Jeff went away. All right. Jeff's having some technical difficulties.
Do you know who that was?
No.
That was my birth father.
Are you serious?
I'm so serious. That's why I don't know if you caught my face, but that's why my face went like that real quick. I was like, so he's probably trying to tune in because I know I sent them, the link earlier.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's who that was, and he most definitely can weigh in
Oh,
on
yeah.
parenting on all
Right.
levels.
Right.
But yeah, I can't. I was a single parent for a minute with only one child, and that was rough. I cannot imagine multiple children, because even married for me, I feel like it's a lot. So how did you, besides just knowing you have three little people that are depending on you, so you kind of have no choice but to not quit, like how did you those feelings of inadequacy, that parents in general, where we're like, I feel like I'm not loved to be able to give my kids these things, but I just can't, whether it's because of time or financial issues. It's, having to deal with, especially when you have children of different sexes. Now, when it comes to, housing, that changes you from everybody even having, being able to pile into one room to now having to go to a 2-bedroom or sometimes even 3, depending on, what the situation is. So can you talk about like um how did you keep yourself in a space of not, I guess, beating yourself up or feeling like you were inadequate at those times where I'm sure it was very overwhelming?
To be honest with you, I didn't. I did feel inadequate more times than not. Honestly, I did. When I first moved to Ohio, that was like my first time moving that distance with them. It was right before Christmas in 2005. And small kids look forward to Christmas. They look forward to the presents under the tree. Well, I just moved from Georgia to Ohio. I had just was getting ready to start my new job. So I had no savings, no money, no none of that. So honestly, I had to go to like the Dollar Tree and get gifts for my kids and wrap them up. Now, they didn't know the difference. They were happy about that. But at that moment, I did not feel bad because I knew you're just starting. You
Right.
just got here. So give yourself some grace. But as time
Mhm.
passed, I made I tried to make the best of the time that I did have and what we could do. So there was a library that was down the street from us that they had all kind of free events for families and things. And I would take the kids to that. I would make sure we would go outside. We would go to the park. So I was always trying to do those things that I really. There's my daughter Kayla. She's like, "Wow, I never knew that." Yeah, Kayla, y'all got Christmas presents from the Dollar Tree, but y'all were happy. And I made sure that I tried to capitalize on those moments. And the times that I felt inadequate, I didn't show them, but I went to my room and cried because I knew, oh my God, I'm not gonna get emotional. You are not gonna have me crying in here tonight. But because I'm just always I'm a bucket of water. But yeah, so I would not let them see me like that. I would go into the room and would just be, I spent a lot of time praying, like, okay, God, I really want to make sure I have something for my kids. But I knew I had to get to that point. So where I am now and where I was then, two totally different times. I can do a lot more now than I could then, but I just kept pushing. And what really got me going, hey, Uncle Jesse is my uncle. What really kept me going is them, and knowing that, just looking at them, and they were healthy, they had food. I planned, made sure I planned, and having the two different sexes. So I had my son and then the girls, two girls. So the girls automatically knew they had to share a room, and my son, he always had his own room, and that stayed that way until I grew enough to where I could get a big enough house where everybody could have their own room. And oh, what a day that was when those girls get their own room. It was like heaven
I
for them.
bet.
But I just had to make the adjustment, and it wasn't easy. I'm telling you, it wasn't easy. Like on the weekends when I really wanted to sleep because I needed to rest, and I just had to keep going. That's why I'm the way I am now. I started then just constantly running and going, and now I don't know how to sit still because that's that's all I know how to do. But it was hard. It was hard on me mentally, and there were many moments I'm like, why is this? Why am I like this? I don't want to be alone like this. I need some help. I want some help. I want a partner. Even at the time, I just want to live in babysitter, that's
Right.
just living there for free. And I did to have one temporarily who did live with me for a little bit. And it was different. Let's put it like that. But it was hard. It was, but I just pushed and pushed, and the time just passed and passed, and I just kept going. I never had a moment where I wanted to just give up and not do it anymore. It was just, I felt so beaten down. Like, this is just so much. but I have to do it for them. They're mine. They're my responsibility, and I never put them off on anybody else. My mom can tell you, like my kids would be with me everywhere I went. They were there with me everywhere. So, and there I had to do it because we didn't have any friends or family. So,
Right.
yeah.
Absolutely. So did you eventually make friends or find, some kind of group or create some kind of circle that could be able to help you during that time?
Not in the not where we lived. We lived in this apartment complex. There was a young lady that lived directly next door to me who was in the same situation. She had 3 kids and she was a single mom. But we didn't, keep each other's kids. So the other one, we didn't build that kind of bond. I did end up joining a church and had people there, but I try to do everything on my own. And that's what it was. I try to do everything on my own. So I didn't even want to ask anybody for help. I'm like, I'm going to figure this out and do it myself. I'm not going to ask for the help. And that's pride, definitely that. I had a lot of pride and I didn't want to ask. So that was hard. So I had them, but I just didn't want to ask. I never did.
I think I can understand that, especially when you're protective of your child. No one is going to do, you know, by your children the way that you do. But
Right.
it is important, and I'm learning the importance even in a marriage to ask for that help, because just because you're married
Mhm.
doesn't mean that that comes with help. It does
Yeah.
not. I grew up in a two-parent household,
Yeah, I was there too. So I
where
get
my
that.
dad was very, yeah, I was like, it was a two-parent household, but more on the traditional, end of things. So when it got to where, my mom was now a stay-at-home mom, she was the one that was doing all types of stuff with us. My dad was the one that was working, and it was just very, like I said, traditional. Whereas
Mhm.
for me, especially getting married, it was one of those kind of conversations like, listen, this is an everybody's job situation. You know what I mean? I
Mhm.
I am not a housewife. I'm not a stay-at-home
Mhm.
mom either. Like, that's
Mhm.
not who I am. You can't even
Right.
pay me to do that. Like, you can't. It's not who I am. But
Yeah.
I I was like, there's things that that need done, and you have to be vulnerable enough to say, okay. Especially for me, I'm a very type A personality, so I like things done a
Mhm.
specific way. So then that's also very hard to work with in a situation where you want all of these a certain way and your partner is not you, so they do things their way.
Right.
And so being able to learn how to respect that. If you have There's certain things that, like, I'm just very hell-bent on doing. So now that's not something that I ask him to do.
Mhm.
I will ask him to do something that I don't care how it gets done. It just gets done.
Yeah.
I don't have to be
Right.
a stickler about it. If, whatever, then however he does it is fine. The job gets done. I'm totally fine with it. That's at least thing that's off my plate. So I urge, definitely for in a single parent situation, but especially in marriages, because you hear that a lot, um, one sided or the other, because I've had both men and women, complain at some point in
Yeah.
time, wishing that, their partner was quote unquote giving more or doing more.
Mhm. Right.
And the only thing is, you have to look at who you're married to. Look at who you're looking to build a relationship with, because you want to make sure that you're asking something of the person that they could actually do. Like I said, if my husband was looking at me and he wanted a housewife, we need to get a divorce like today, okay? Because I'm not it, and I'm not going
Yeah.
to be that for him either. I'm not.
Right.
So that's either something he has to come to grips with, or that's something that he's going to have to say, you know what, this doesn't work for me. I love you dearly, but I need these things. And so then he goes and he
Mhm.
finds someone who can be that for him. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Right.
I think that that's it, especially when we're talking about blended families, that's something that you
Mhm.
have to really, really consider, because you are already an established entity. Like, you and your daughter, you guys are an established entity. When I came to the table, it was myself and my son. So, and there were conversations at some point in time where it was like, well, is there any room for me?
Wow. That's
Because we already have this bond. It's a him and I. He already knows it's me and him against the world, period.
yeah.
Whether you stay or you go, it's always going to be me and him.
Mhm.
So that's a conversation
Yeah.
that ends up being had.
Right. Right. I think
You have to.
I think it's important, and I want to say this, and then I want to go on that. So, for the
Mhm.
single parents that may be watching, just ask for the help that you need.
Yeah.
You need to get a tribe of people that you trust. Don't try to do it alone. Like I did it. That was back in the early 2000s, but the times have changed so much. And if I could go back and redo, I would open my mouth and ask for some help. So the same, just know that there are some people that are willing to be true and real and honest and help. And don't think you can do it alone, because the next thing you know, you get so overwhelmed, and then people will commit suicide. They're going to drugs. They're, doing all kind of craziness, and we don't want that. But now let's transition from the single on to the married, because you said something that really, raised my eyebrows about knowing who you are getting connected to and marrying. Because, especially if you're coming in with children already, even if aren't coming in with kids, you got to know the
Mhm.
expectations of the other and what they're looking for. Like you said, if your husband was looking for a housewife, then yeah, I'm not the one. So these conversations need to take place, and even more conversations if you have children, because I need to know, because Ariel is 8. I want to know, what's your discipline style? And I don't know if am I going to be able to handle that? Am I going to be able to
That's
handle
huge.
your discipline style? Or if you,
Or who is disciplining,
yeah,
or who's disciplining in general,
right.
because we've had a big conversation even as far as that. Like, I mean, I can, be honest, as far as our family dynamic, when it comes to my son and my husband's son, the two that we came to the relationship, neither one of us physically reprimand the.
Hmm.
That's a little, I was like, Noah's different because he's out. So now this is something that we have to come together and we have to agree on what to do for him. But that's not to say that I can't have something to say about, my bonus boy. That's not to say that my husband can't say something about my son. We both hear what the other person is saying. If we feel like, there's something that needs to be a conversation, if it's monumental, whatever, we talk to the other party involved. You know what I mean? My son always knows that
Hmm.
when it comes to his father, I've always told him I have to answer to him. I might be the primary parent, but there's still some kind of accountability there at the end of the day. Just the same as if he were the primary parent and I was here on the other end. There needs to be some kind of
Right.
accountability once that relationship is severed, so that you can honestly be able to sleep at night knowing that your child is being taken care of. But then you have that
Right.
other aspect now when you're ready to move on. What does that mean with that other person? What kind of relationship is that person building? What is
Right.
that person bringing to the table? You have some people who trying to be somebody's dad. Guess what? He's got a dad. She's got a dad.
Hmm.
That's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to add an extra cheerleader, an extra support system, something that you can bring to the table. But at no point in time, unless there literally is an absence of a parent, and this is what the child, and you let the child be the one to
Hmm.
decide that kind of relationship. You definitely don't force um,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
relationship with a partner. at all. But I was like, there's a lot of facets when you're talking about being married and then you blending families, because there's a lot of people involved.
Right.
You know what I mean? And ours, we've got, my ex and he's married. And then
Mm,
we have my husband's ex and she's in a relationship.
wow. Yeah, it's a lot of moving pieces to it.
It
How was it when you were dating your husband and it was just you and your son? How was that? At what point in time did you introduce the two of them? And I know right off the bat he knew that you had a son and you knew he had a son, but at what point in time did you now bring them two together to meet and then to determine, hey, once you realize things are going to go a little further? How was the dating process?
So it's kind of weird because my husband has been my best friend since college. He was like one of the first people I met when I came to UD.
Okay.
So it was a little different than if I had just probably met someone on the street,
Okay.
as far as meeting my child. So I guess once I had gotten settled back into Delaware and I was down here and it was, a phone call like, "Oh, hey, you're back." Yeah, I'm back, kind of thing. He came over, we hung out a couple of times. And then I want to say around that time, he was also starting to get his son, and his son is almost 3 years younger than mine. So he was kind of in the infant stage at the time.
Mhm.
And of course, this is his first child. He doesn't really have any idea of, what to do really. And so we kind of bonded over single parenthood, me helping him from a stage where I had, already done and did it by myself, and then him just being an extra person, and for me, comfort at times. There would be times where we would do stuff with the boys, and then they would end up falling asleep. I would fall asleep and he'd be like, "Yo, you just knocked out." Like we'd be watching the news and I knocked out, and I realized it was crazy. The first time I really got some sleep was because there was another person that I trusted there,
Mm. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
sleeping by myself with my son, that was even though I was in a safe place, I was in a safe town, a safe apartment complex,
Mhm.
I still was always on guard.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean, that safe space even
I've
for
been there.
you does a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean.
I've definitely been there. Been where I need to get a little bit of sleep and I know I'm dozing off, but we're in my bedroom and I'm closing the door and the girls were big enough to where they would sit on the floor and look at TV, but my son was a baby and he would be on the bed. I like have his ankle clenched just in case, he wants to try to roll while I'm dozing in and out of sleep.
Right.
And it's not because I just want to sleep, it's because I'm so exhausted. And you're always vigilant. You're always just making sure and always watching. So I can relate to that.
Absolutely. Well, see, so I was like, my husband works a different schedule. So there are times where it's sometimes not, it feels like I'm a single parent, but we have a time adjustment right
Yeah.
now with both of us trying to, get our businesses off the ground. And he is still also working a traditional job. Sometimes it's like two shifts
Mhm.
passing in the night,
Yeah.
and it gets to a place where, um, I realized too that communication is something that is key,
Yeah.
um, in general, whether that is in a relationship or even just with someone that is being able to, to help you.
Yeah.
Right now, I help a couple of different families with their, children, and communication for me during the day about what happened with their child, what transpired, what has happened, if they were doing anything new, if something looked funny, there's a spot here, X, Y, and Z happen. All these
Mhm.
kind of conversations and things
Mhm.
need to be need to be said, whether it's, as a single parent with some help, or as a married person. If you
Yeah.
are a single person who is dating, this is crucial.
Mhm.
Because if and I urge you to pay attention to what may or may not be left out,
Mm-hmm.
because then that tells you a lot about what someone values, what they think is different. I was always big on, you can never say to my kids, don't tell your mom,
Yeah.
or let's keep this a secret. If you say that, you're not allowed around my kids.
Yeah.
I give
Absolutely.
people one warning, if your family, because hey, listen, I believe in a little bit of grace. A lot of people, we've all grown up like that. They're always, shh,
Mm-hmm.
don't tell you.
Yeah.
No, if you have to tell my kid that, then you're doing something that you're not supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Other than the simple, I'm giving you some candy, and your mom said you can't have any candy.
Exactly, exactly.
You were
See,
talking about
and
the
for
deeper
me,
stuff.
I can respect someone who will do something like that and just be like, listen, put this in your pocket,
Yeah.
tell your mom I gave it to you,
Right.
and make sure you ask her, blah, blah, blah. Somebody like that, I can get down with.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's because a lot of that, I say all this to say, when you're blending families, and I know this is something that um a lot of us hold dear when we have small kids. It's always trying to make sure that we're not putting our kids in a vulnerable position.
Yeah.
How do I know if this person is not going to do harm to me or my child? You know what I mean? A lot of people are in abusive relationships. They started out flowery, they were very nice, and never in a million years would you think that this person was going to end up being like that. My
Yeah.
pastor said it takes 7 years for someone to really come out, and for you to really get to know a person. Once they drop the
Mm-hmm.
facade, you never know. So take that time. Don't necessarily rush into it. Just like we said, I had said, as far as choosing your partner, being intentional, like, it's be intentional with that time so that you can create different situations. You can see authentically how someone is going to react. Because we can have conversations all day and I could tell you what I think you would want to hear or what sounds
Mm-hmm.
good. But then when we actually are in the thick of it, how are you going to handle that?
Yeah, absolutely. And especially when you have children involved in the equation as well, you really have to be careful and mindful of that. Um, so spending that time together, having the conversations, paying attention to the little things that they may not think that you see, or anything that raises an eyebrow or make you question, then that needs to be addressed. You need
Yeah.
to discuss that. You need to dig into that a little bit deeper, because if you see yourself going a little bit further with this person and you haven't addressed that, and then you go ahead and marry them and they just come, turn left on you, and now
Yeah.
you now in that.
Pillow
And
talk is, how were you raised? What did
yeah,
your mom do? What did your dad do? Was he present?
right.
Was she present? What do you think about X, Y, and Z circumstances? And you, as the parent, especially if the person doesn't have any kids that's coming to the table, I would give them real life examples,
Oh
because
yeah.
you know your child. You
It-
know certain things are going to come up. How
yeah.
exactly are you going to handle this?
Right, right. Because I know my son, he's 17, but my son has a very slick mouth. He
Mm,
has a mouth just like his father, very slick. And he doesn't understand that and I tell him, son, it's not, it's the person, even if you say you're not saying it in that way, if I perceive it that way, then it's that way. So how you gonna handle my son, who may sometimes say something slick? He may not mean it, but it's slick. I know I take it as slick and you take it as slick. Like, what are you gonna do? Because I don't want there to be some kind of altercation and there be a problem. Like, are you gonna be able to handle that? Are you gonna be able to handle it in an adult manner and deal with my son? Or is that gonna set you off or trigger you from something that you dealt with in your childhood? And then the next thing you know, you're trying to jump my son and I'm about to go to prison.
Thank
So
you. Thank you. The
like,
key to what you said was in an adult manner, because
yeah,
you're right. Once they get triggered, it then turns literally into you're acting like a child.
right.
And there's nothing like having to be a referee between an adult and a child, and the
Yeah,
two of them are bickering like two children. Like,
right, right.
that's ridiculous.
So when you got ready to when your husband proposed,
Mhm.
and you two decided you were going to get married. How did you bring that into your son? I mean, how did he at the time? How old was your son at the time?
Let's see. Probably like 8.
Okay, so he was a good age, a great understanding. So how did you talk to him yourself, or did the two of you talk to him together and let him know what was getting ready to take place?
Um, I talked to him once I felt like our relationship was going towards that way. And
Okay,
I had pretty much made it known, like, listen, either we're doing this to get married or we're just not going to do this at all. Like,
yeah.
you know what
That
I
is
mean?
important. Like,
It's
don't waste my time. If you want to be my
exactly,
friend, then let's define that from the beginning, and we will keep
exactly,
it on a friends level, and we'll just keep it moving. But if you're really
exactly.
serious about taking this to the next level, okay, then let's talk about this now. Because one thing that April's not going to do is waste her time, and I've done that too. I'm not doing that anymore.
Exactly,
So,
exactly. And there's too much writing on this. It'd be
yeah.
one thing if
Mhm.
it was just you, and that's not to
Right.
say that we're supposed to just be taking crap. But at the same time, once we're adding children into the mix, the reality is our children are watching us, whether it's your son watching you as a mom, or it's your daughter watching you as a dad, or it's your daughter watching you as a mom. Like
Right.
I was like, or a son with their dad. All of these dynamics, like this is what is shaping
Hmm.
how they view relationships. This is shaping how they view the opposite sex. This is shaping how they view a marriage.
Right.
So we have to be intentional
Hmm.
about what we're doing because we know they do what they see rather
Yeah.
than what we say.
And I'm
So,
at that point now where I feel so bad because I was married for 12 years, almost 12 years. And after like year 3, then I started seeing a change. And I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? But the what upset me the most was my children, my two daughters were watching, and I didn't
mhm,
want them to have a negative think that that's how marriage was supposed to be, because it's not. It's supposed to be a beautiful thing, not without the ups and downs, but that was
right,
always in my mind. Not so, yes, me and my feelings, but I'm thinking my kids because I'm the example for them. So
right,
if I'm just in this and they see me about to lose my mind, how is that going to make them think that they're supposed to be in a relationship? So I worried about that for even now, like, oh God, I just scarred my kids because they saw me in this situation where it started off good and I tried to make it work and it just wasn't. And they saw, like, two of my kids literally saw me on, like, at the edge of having a nervous breakdown, like literally at the edge. And just going through the whole process, and it definitely God kept me from that happening. But that's important because who
yeah,
we're with, they're watching. Like you said, they are
yeah.
watching that.
Well, I think it also depends on the type of child that you have, because
Mm,
some children are going to see what you just described as commitment. This is
yeah,
someone who was committed to the process,
yeah,
even when it was tough. If nothing else, I can say my mom.
yeah. Oh, Morgan, she was about to say, I saw my mom try. So we are really pressed for time, and I'm going to wait for Morgan to come back in. But we were talking about single parenting, parenting when you're married, and then blending families together. We're definitely going to have to do a part 2 to this because we want our viewers to come in and weigh in on this. We don't want just to be me and Morgan doing all the talking. So we're going to definitely let you know when we're going to have a part 2. I'm going to try to wait and see if she comes back on, but we got to be off here at 7 o'clock on tonight. But we want to encourage you to um, message us, both of us, on our Facebook pages. Some of you follow me on Instagram with ideas and topics. We have something new, and I'm going to go ahead and say this before, and she'll come back on and we'll talk. Oh, there you are. You're back.
Yeah, sorry, someone was FaceTiming me and I couldn't
Oh.
tell them no.
So I know that I told the viewers that we are going to definitely have a part 2, because we want them to come in. So when we have a part 2, the link will be displayed, so you're able to come in and weigh in on the conversation about single parenting, being married and parenting, and then how it's shaping the family dynamic now, because things have changed. Years ago, the two people got married and they had kids afterwards. Yeah, that's not how it is nowadays. You're coming into it already. You have kids, they have kids, or one may have them and the other one may not. And I think it's important to discuss that part of, you have kids, but your partner that you're marrying doesn't. And how does that affect them? Because if they don't want kids, then you definitely don't need to be marrying them.
That part.
So if
Well, it's only dependent on if they just physically don't want to have any, but don't mind raising. Because
okay, well,
I've
see, that needs to be defined for
exactly,
sure.
and that's what I was
Yeah.
gonna say. That's probably the
Yeah.
only definition, because I know people who are like, biologically, I don't want any children, but that's not to
Mhm.
say that if a child was in, the
Right.
situation, I wouldn't. Now, there are some people where they're just like, nope, I'm not dating anybody with a child, period. I know I was that person for a while.
Mm,
And my biggest thing was, I refused to have a child say to me, well, you're not my mom.
yeah. Yeah.
Because
That something will
I don't
run
know
through
how I would
you.
react to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I really, really don't. But see, and I think because of that, the type of relationship I have with my bonus boy, I have never tried to act like his mom.
Yeah. And that's key.
And
Yeah.
it's not that I don't, and I say this lightly, that's not my responsibility. Like, he was given to his mother. Like, I'm just here to help facilitate, help do whatever, and whatever kind of relationship he wants to build, and he wants with me, I let him lead with that.
Yeah.
But it's important to be able to draw that distinction
Right.
early, because sometimes it will go to the head, and now you have to kind of be over here like, well, wait a minute, who's the parent here?
Right. Right.
Now, that's actually something else to bring up as well, and that's, I would love for us to bring this topic into part 2. It's when you are married and have a blended family, when it comes to what you guys are agreeing on, especially like I said, in our relationship, I'm not physically reprimanding my boy, and my son isn't being physically reprimanded by my husband. That's not to say that, what, he's doing something, what, you're grounded for a week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, what happens if you don't agree with that?
Yeah. There has to be definitely.
What happens if you feel like there's another method that could be done? What happens? The reality, like I said, he was 8 when we got married.
Mm-hmm.
He was about 3.5-ish, almost 4, when we moved back down here. So he's had nothing but me. He knows what my expectations are. Him and I actually have an unspoken language. We are like this.
Yeah.
So now I can hear things, or I let certain things slide, whereas someone from the outside would be like, he's being disrespectful. Actually, he's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
I allow my son to speak his mind. I asked him a question. He knows what's too far and what's not. I know how to tell him, check your tone.
Yeah.
I'm fine with what you're saying, but I don't like your tone.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, those are the kind of conversations that we're having right now, because he needs to be able to speak freely. I know I might have some preconceived notion in my head, and he's like, nah, mom, that wasn't even it.
Yeah. And I think that I'm glad you said that, because when you're blending families together, it's important for the two of you to decide what's appropriate for your own family and not allow outside family members to weigh in on what they think and how they think it should be. Because at the end of the day, the two of you are married, the two of you are living together, and that is your household together. You
Yeah.
have to make that decision. I've seen and watched so many people give their 2 cents, and it's like, okay, my mom always tells me that. She says, I'm going to run my mouth, but you run your business. So she says she's
And
going to
that's
give her
right.
2 cents, but at the end of the day, it's my business, it's my life, it's my household, so I'm going to run it the way I want to. And she
Right.
and she's
Absolutely.
cool with that. That's fine. So it's
Yeah.
important. Now, going back to the whole part about not wanting the kids, you were talking. Yeah, I need somebody that wants to help raise a kid, but not have any. Because this shop is
There you go.
closed. Closed down.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So if
And
you coming
that's,
in,
I'm so glad you said that
yeah,
too, because I've been running into that a lot where there is the party who has kids doesn't want anymore, but
oh,
I was like, the new party in doesn't have any and would like that experience.
that's a deal
And
breaker for me.
so, and see, so here's the thing.
Yeah.
Are you having that conversation? You having that conversation on the first date then?
Oh,
You're not going to give
yeah, yeah,
yourself a
yeah.
chance to fall in love or create any kind of feelings.
No, 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 no. We're gonna have that because I want to know, because off the bat, I I usually don't date men that don't have kids. No, I need you to have at least one. I need you to have that experience. So you already know, if you have multiple, then fine. Now, if you have like, 6, 7 kids, then that's stretching it a bit. You took what the Bible said and you were really fruitful and multiply. But yeah, but I want to know right off the bat, hey, if you don't have kids, are you wanting to have kids? And I've done that. Like, I've been on some dating apps. I want to put myself out there. I have been. I haven't been on any lately because I'm so over it. But I would ask them in the
Yeah.
talking on the app, do you have kids? And if they would say, oh, no, but I want some someday, X, done. No, no. Because I'm not. I just, no, no.
Okay, so another key, you have to be honest with yourself,
Yeah,
one, about what you want.
right.
And because we're not wasting any time, we're cutting to the chase.
Yes,
We're having these conversations very early on.
yeah,
And here's the thing, you got to be able to not be BS'd
yeah, yeah.
by someone.
That's true.
You know, don't give, I don't remember who it was that told me, but it was like, I don't know if it goes across the lines, but I know it definitely was for women dealing with men. Women, do not tell a man exactly what you want.
Yeah.
Tell him what you don't want.
Mhm.
That's not to say that he's a mind reader, so he's not going to figure out what you do want.
Yeah.
But if you tell a man exactly what you want, he's either going to do just that,
Yeah. And then we got to
or
watch that.
exactly, or I was going to say exactly, or he's going to do just that just to be able to get what he wants out of the
Right.
situation. And you're standing there left holding the bag, which
Yeah.
we all, gender inclusive, have all dealt with at some
Yeah.
point in time. We've all been holding the bag.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah,
I
we
was
don't want those kind of situations.
being honest for me, and I can only talk about me, but being honest up front about what I'm looking for is key, because I don't want to waste your time. I don't want my time wasted. And I surely don't want to get myself all involved emotionally. And unfortunately, I let that happen to me just recently, just in the past
Mm,
like 2 months. Started talking to someone, and I knew now the person, he's a great guy, awesome guy. I mean, if I were in a different place than I am now, then there wouldn't have been no doubt we'd have been together. But I'm looking for so much more than what he had available, what he could give me at this point. And
mm-hmm.
I'm not just looking for me. I'm like, I got kids. Even though my daughter's 23, my other daughter's 21, Micah's 17, and then I got the 8-year-old. The 8-year-old's going to be there. Are you going to be able to take care of me and her? Are you going to be able to be a father figure to my other kids? Are you going to be able, not that I want to sit down and just let you take care of me and I don't do anything because I'm like you. That is not me. I like making my own money because I got a lot I
Mhm.
do. But are you going to be able to do that? But you're not in, he wasn't in a place to be able to do that. And then, too,
Mm.
as far as the spiritual aspect of it, because that's really important to me and where I'm going on that part, I need somebody that's going to be able to cover me, protect me, push me in ministry. And and although he had his own relationship with God and it was his own personal one, it wasn't where I needed it to be. So I'm not getting ready to just. And I kept saying, we just got to be friends. We can't. And I still, instead of leaving it at the friends mark, I still want to keep, the conversation because it was
Because it
comfortable. It was
feels good.
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then God said, okay, so you're not going to do it. So I'm going to do it for you. So dude
Yeah.
ended up just disappearing and blocked me. I was like, okay, well, I can't be mad because God said, let it go. It wasn't going to benefit you. This is not who I have. And
God,
okay,
does
God.
April really need a sign like that though?
Yeah, yeah.
So, listen, I'm one of those too. I be like, Lord, gee, am I really that hard headed? Like, you got to come slap me
At
like that
times,
though?
hey, when it comes to matters of my heart, yes, sometimes I need it. Now,
Or that.
back at the beginning of the year, I didn't have any trouble. It was inclusive of my heart who I was dating then, but it was just so off the wall. I let that go. But this time was different. So we got to take all of that into consideration, not only for us, but for our children as well, and blending
Yeah.
these families. So yeah, if you are single and you don't have any kids, it will take, I'm going to say this, it's going to take Jesus to come down on the cloud and say, April, he's the one. Because I want to say, God, not this, but he doesn't have any kids. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? So, but having those conversations is important. How do you feel about
Mhm.
kids? Do you want any kids? How do you feel about money? Like, all of that. And for
That's a
those,
big
now
too, yeah.
this, I just thought about this one. For those men that have kids and are paying child support, and you're going to marry someone, now that is money that's going to be coming out of their income to pay child support. How is the new wife? How's the wife going to, that's stuff that has to be discussed because that's money coming out of the household. So that's still all a part of blending the families. It's not just about how are we going to rear the children and do you want more kids and what about discipline. Let's talk about all this child support you got to pay and how is that going to
Look,
affect us here.
and in certain states, if he and or she defaults on child support payments, then the spouse, it comes from them.
Yeah, yeah. See that. Oh my God. Yeah, I don't know if I want people snatching money out my account for a kid that I
So
didn't
I was
have.
like, and it's funny. Like I was like, that was a conversation that we had. We have two different kind of child support situations, in our family. But yeah, it's a conversation because then here's the thing. Once child support is paid and then there's a phone call, hey, X, Y, and Z is going on. I need you to send this. Or let Christmas
Mm,
time come around. Whole different kind of conversation too.
yeah, because they can't just make that
Splitting
decision on
gifts,
their
are you
own.
not splitting gifts? Exactly.
Right.
Are
Yeah.
gifts going back to the house? You know what I mean? I was like the clothes. We can have tons of part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 because it's even just with the bonus kids, clothes back
Hmm.
and forth, transportation back and forth,
Yeah.
visitation being a thing. And what exactly does that mean to the non custodial parent? What does that mean to the person like me? You know what I mean? On the weekends where my bonus boy is coming here, what exactly does that mean for me as well? I
Right.
always say he's here to come to spend time. That is literally why he's here. Not that he's not
Hmm.
here to spend time with the family, but the purpose is for him to be able to spend time with his dad. So, with that being said, what does that mean for me? In
Mm-hmm.
my headspace, the reality is my brain has to stretch now because there's still another child in the house.
Yeah.
I'm not going to while I'm here. You
Right.
want to make sure that that person is going to treat your child the same as theirs. Can you imagine
Mm-hmm.
what it would look like if I was treating my bonus boy anything different than the two that I've got?
Yeah.
And trust me, kids are the first people. And so if your
Mm-hmm.
kid is not fooling with somebody, it's because your kid has already noticed something. Listen to your kids when your kids tell
Yeah.
you stuff. They see things, they hear things, and they notice things that we are
Yes.
too busy sometimes to see, hear, or notice. Or we just decide
Or
to ignore the red flag, period.
exactly that part. We see it and we want to ignore it, but they see it and they're going to respond accordingly. So watch the kids. If you
Exactly.
don't know, watch the kids. Watch how they interact. Watch what they
Exactly.
say. Watch how they are. That'll give you a good
Exactly.
idea. Yeah, that is true.
Absolutely. And create that open door where your kids can be able to say that, especially if you are single and
Mhm.
open to being in a relationship or even still married in that situation. Like, if my son doesn't agree with something or he doesn't understand why my husband chose to do something, he should be able to come to either one of us or at least me and be like, hey, mom, I don't think that this is right. I feel like da 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 da, and this is what happened. And what do you think? Because then I can at least be able to say, well, this is where he was coming from when he came to this conclusion. Or based
Mhm.
upon this, do you see how this was perceived?
Yeah,
Next time, let's do X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? You can be able to have those conversations, but it has to be open, in general.
right,
Someone said I'm
right.
late to the party. This yeah. Well, welcome to the
That's
party.
That is fine. So we have a minute left. So I think that we're going to use this time to talk about part two. It won't be next week. We'll to
Mhm.
have a part two, and we'll let you guys know when that is. But for the part two, we want the viewers to come in and add in their thoughts and their ideas and their experiences, whatever you're willing to share. I know even though my kids are the ages that they are, I'm still learning. I still learn something new every day. And me being in the position that I am out here dating and waiting, well, I'm not dating now, but I mean, I'm waiting. Hey, help me because you probably give me something as far as Ariel's concerned, because I asked her what she thought about me dating and getting married again, and she kind of
Mhm.
goes back and forth between the yes, I want you to get married, and no, I don't want you to get married. Like, okay, well, dude, you don't make that decision. I will take it into consideration, but mommy would like to have a husband, okay? And the one that I'm supposed to have. So thank you, Kayla. That's my daughter. I really enjoyed this. I can't wait for part two. Oh, yeah. So we're gonna get out of here, but definitely let you know when part two is coming. You all will be able to click on the link yourself and come in just like Morgan and I are, and
Yeah.
and weigh in on it.
We'll have some questions and stuff so that you guys can be able to weigh in on something specific, or as we're talking in general, we're like, so who's got something to weigh on that, and we'll just bring you on in.
And another thing that we have just decided to add, and Morgan and I have to decide when we want to start it, but we're going to have once a month, we're going to have He Said, She Said segment. And that's going to be talking about relationship from the male perspective and the female perspective and money, whatever it is from both genders. And I am so excited about that. And that's the title. He said, she said. So we will let you know when it's going to be, and it'll be once a month. We're going to have that. We'll have a panel of men, a panel of women, and we'll just have an open discussion. So if you are on, or you're going to watch this later and you are interested in being on the He Said, She Said panel, then message one of us and let us know, and we will get you on when we have the first date of that. And if you know any women entrepreneurs or women who've done some great things in their community that would like to be a guest on the show, definitely reach out to us. We want to include everyone. We are empowering you, encouraging you, uplifting you to live your best life and be your best self. and obtain everything that you want. So all of this is inclusive of that. So we included the men and the women today. We're talking about singleness, married, blending families, and how that impacts the new dynamics. So hopefully you will join us next week. Next week we are going to have Jasmine. Is it Body or Bodie?
Bodie.
Bodie. So we're going to have
Yes,
Jasmine Bodie on as our guest, and she is a truck driver, and I can't wait to talk to her because I've seen some women truck drivers, and I'm like, you better wheel that semi, you better run that. So I'm
right.
looking forward to talking to her about that whole process. Was that something?
Listen, she is a whole vibe. I am so excited to have her on. Like she's definitely gonna have this show be the talk of the town.
Oh, well, then I cannot wait.
The
I
two
cannot
towns
wait.
sent you in a whole nother town.
Oh, awesome, awesome. All right, folks. So thank you so much for joining us. Please share this with someone else. I know if we just reach one person, which we've reached several tonight, which is great, just share it. Have people come on, remind them we're on every Tuesday between 7. We usually come on about 7:15. Give everybody a chance to kind of get in and get settled. So 7:15 every single Tuesday. Morgan and I are on here to give you some fire. So until next week, y'all have a fabulous rest of your week and a fabulous weekend. I'm signing out from San Antonio, Texas.
Yes.
I gotta
And it's
say
the
that.
beginning of my birthday month, so you know I'm gonna be celebrating all
Oh,
month
yeah.
long.
She's taking gifts the entire month. So
Yes,
shower her with gifts the entire month. All right, folks. Have a wonderful evening. We will see you
See you
next
next week.
week. See ya.
Bye.
Glow, 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 glow.